What we're going to do is go over these answers. I'm going to go over it, just me talking at you, so you can watch this at home. 5 brackets 2 squared plus 4 brackets 2.
20.
Thank you. I don't need you to tell me what the answers are, I just need you to be silent. Now, question B, I'm going to go over in a multitude of ways. First of all, this is quite easy. All you do is you factorise it. You have x plus 5, x minus 5, which equals 0. But this is what is really important and what I would like you to know. Today, we're going to be talking about the x-intercepts. And what this means is, if we have a graph like this, the x-intercepts are always where it crosses the x-axis. Douglas, what did I say about the x-intercepts? We wrote it in our books. Y is equal to what for the x-intercepts?
X-intercepts.
Yes, y is equal to what?
Y is equal to the y-axis.
So if we're looking at the x-intercepts, y is equal to 0. So this is why we've put 0 here, because y is equal to 0. And that means it's where it crosses the x-axis. Now, in a moment, we're going to talk about how to do this on a calculator. You don't need to factorise in this course. You can do it directly on the calculator. A number has been rounded to the nearest whole number. The number is this. What is the upper and lower bound? We are going to have this as the main number. We are going to go one number below, but that's not the right answer. One number above, but that's not the right answer. And then we're going to go halfway in between, 1918.5. That's the number it's been rounded below. And 1919.5. Remember what we did with bounds is, if the unit is 1, we took the 1, we halved it, and then we added 0.5, and then we subtracted 0.5. D, we have been doing non-stop, so hopefully you get this a little bit better. First thing you need to do is you need to work out the gradient. We're going to have minus 9 minus 2, subtracting the y's. Then we're going to have minus 6 minus 3. That's minus 11 minus 3, which is 11 over 3. That's not a very nice answer. We always work out the gradient first, then we substitute it into the question. Then what we need to do is we need to replace x and y with one of the coordinates. I'm going to go with minus 3 and 2 because there's only one negative rather than 2. We are going to put x as minus 3, and then we're going to put 2 as y. We get 2 equals minus 11 plus c. C equals 13. You combine it all together and you get y is equal to 11 thirds plus 13. 11 thirds x plus 13. So today we're going to be carrying on with quadratic graphs. So we're going to be doing a question like this, but on the calculator. So there's a few complicated steps for that. Steps of a quadratic graph. So we've gone over that in the starter. So the first thing you would do for this is you'd go to the y equals button. And on the y equals button, if we want to do a new function, you need to press clear, which is the red button I've just selected. We're then just going to copy this function in. You can either expand the brackets or not expand the brackets. We're going to write 3x minus 4. Then we're going to do x plus 2. Please note that when I do a minus, I type the big minus. There's 2 minuses on the calculator. There's a big minus here and there's a small minus. The big minus is used most of the time. The small minus is used at the beginning of a mathematical sentence. So we're going to have x minus 4, close brackets, x plus 2, close brackets. Then what you need to do, there's 2 ways of doing this. We said that we get x-intercepts when y is 0. So you can go onto the table, which is by pressing second graph, and all these steps are going to be listed in this blue box. So I will send, you can access this slideshow at home. This slideshow is called Quadratic Graphs or Functions, Katie Rowlands. Now what we need to look at is where something happens in this table. we're looking for an x-intercept, what should we say the y must be? 0. So when the y is 0, we have x is minus 2. So one of the x-intercepts is going to be at minus 2. And then, what's our other x-intercept going to be? 4, well done. However, that doesn't always work because the x-intercepts might be horrible numbers. So the best way to do this question is to look at the graph. Now these steps are a little bit more complicated, so we're going to press graph. And it says invalid dimensions. So with the graph, you have to be able to set the dimensions properly. So to set the dimensions, what you must press is the window, which is 3 buttons along. So before we do that, we've got to quit off this. I'm going to press window. And the window tells us how much of the graph we can see. It says that the x minimum is minus 15, the x maximum is 15, the y minimum is minus 15, the y maximum is 100. To me, there doesn't look like there's any issue with this, Douglas. Okay, afterwards. So let's see if the graph works. It says to check the dim list and check the stack plots up or off. There's something quite wrong here. So I'm going to go back to that in a moment. I'll show you now. So we're going to go on part 3 of this video. So you should have typed this into your y equals, which we did before, and I had an error message. If you get an error message like that, what you're supposed to do is go onto the plot and then press enter randomly, and then it works. However, we are not going to be talking too much about that error message, as you probably won't get that error message. So what you do is you'll press graph, and you should get a quadratic graph. In this question, we can't see the vertex. So if you wanted to change the question to see the vertex, what you would do is you go on window, and we want to see more of the y-axis. So I'm going to change this to minus. Remember, it's a small minus, it's the beginning of a sentence. 45. Go back to graph. And there's told me is an error. The reason why there's an error this time is because I changed the y maximum to minus 45, whereas I should have changed the y minimum. It's really important you understand where you go wrong and you can correct yourself in the exam. So if you write minus 45 and we press graph, now you should be able to see the minimum and the x-intercepts. It looks more like a quadratic graph. Ideally, I can see too much of the x-axis, so I'm going to zoom in so I can see less of the x-axis. So I'm going to go onto window, and I'm going to say I want to see less on the left-hand side, so I'm going to make this minus 8, and less on the right-hand side, so I'm going to make this 8. And then I'm going to press graph. And now that graph looks much better. It's not essential you do these steps, but in later topics it is. Now, to find the x-intercepts, what you need to do is follow the steps. I believe we are pressing second trace. And here are the different things we would like to do. Value is something we did last lesson. And value is when, if you select value, it's when x equals something specific. So for example, if we wanted to find the y-intercept occurs when x is 0, press enter. Again, I've made an error there because I've got y0. Let's go back to calculate. Enter, press x is 0. This is where we get the y-intercept is minus 24. But we don't want to do a value. What we want to do is a 0. A 0 is when y equals 0, or when we find x-intercept. Make sure you've written that down before you look at your notes from previously. Now, this is the most complex thing. So basically, it's a 0. That is when we're finding the x-intercept. It means that y is 0. This is the most complicated thing. Find exactly where it crosses the x-axis. What you have to do is you click on 0, then you enter something to the left where it crosses, and it will give you a dotted line. You've got to click enter towards the right, and then enter approximately in the middle. And it will say the 0 is at minus 2, 0. Now, you might think that's overly complicated, because the answer is really straightforward, but you can get questions where the answer is not really straightforward. So therefore, one of our answers is minus 2. Right, if you were to repeat that process again, we would press second out, and we're going to do it now for the second zero. We talked about this last lesson, that this graph has got 2 zeros because it crosses the x-axis twice. We go to the left, on the left-hand side. We go to the right, and then we go approximately in the middle, and then that gives us our answer. The zero is at 4, 0. We have 2 zeros, minus 2 and 4. What I'd like you to have a go at now is doing this question, squared minus 2x minus 35. So then I'll do further. We're going to go on to the y equals, and we're going to press clear. On the y equals, we're going to then type in x squared. Remember, this is the squared button, or you could use the arrow up and 2. Minus large minus 2x minus 35. Then we're going to press graph. Graph looks pretty good. We then, following the steps, let's see what we've done so far. We've typed in the function. And now we need to press second help. We press second help. And it says press number 2, which is 0. You can either go down the list or you press 2 automatically. Imagine now you're reading a book. So the left is the far left of the screen. It's like you read left to right. You press enter just before 0, or just before it crosses the x-axis. Enter just after, and then enter approximately where you think it is. And it will say there's a 0 at minus 5. Therefore, one of our answers is going to be x is minus 5. The other answer will be 7. And the way you do that is as follows. Second out, press 2 again. This time we're going to go all the way over to the other option by pressing the arrow key. And on this we're going to press enter to the left, enter to the right, and then enter on the middle. And then it gives us another solution, 0 to 7. This means the crosses at minus 5 and 7. What I'd like you to do now is some match-up questions. The questions this time, you will notice there are weird decimal numbers. I have 6 questions on the left here, and then 6 answers on the right. I want you to put one of the questions into your calculator. If you can find the answer, you've got it right. And then just keep repeating it. And we're going to do this for at least 5, maybe 10 minutes. So off we go and start with one on the left, please. Normally these worksheets match up together with questions and answers, but sometimes the answers don't quite match up with the questions. So we're going to talk about how you check these at home. So what I would recommend you do is you go on to Desmos, and this is Desmos. Okay, can you not talk over me, please? Once we've gone on to Desmos, what we're going to do is we're going to type in the equation, and you can do this for any question to do with a quadratic graph because this will help you. Y equals 2x squared, Douglas, I hate people talking over me, plus 8x plus 2. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to just select where it is the 0. You just hold here, and it says it's minus 3.732. Let's just check the answers. I can't see any answers. I don't think these answers match up, I apologise. And then the other one is going to be minus 0.268. I'm going to go through a few of them because you might have done a few of them. The next one was 5x squared, 6x minus 1. We're going to have minus 1.348. And then the other one was 0.1483. So literally you could come up with any quadratic question in your head and then practice this in your calculator and then check it on the Desmos. Next step we're going to do is we're going to talk about how to find the vertex. Now, to find the vertex is very similar, and we're going to use the TI-84 help sheet. Now, you should have this on your folder, and I'm going to show you the PowerPoint of it. It's called Help Sheet for the TI-84. On this document or PowerPoint, I am going to search for vertex. The vertex is the lowest point of the graph, or the highest point if it's a negative parabola. It's just searching for the word vertex and I can't find it, so I'm going to write it in lowercase instead. So, quadratics is topic 2, it's function, so I need to have a look on my blue text, which is all topic 2. Here we go. Find the minimum and maximum of the graph. So minimum and maximum is the same as vertex. We are doing the following steps. Jim, how is this the same as what we did before? Similar steps. Which step is similar to begin with? Most of them. Yeah, exactly. Most of them are similar. The only different step really is that you select the maximum. So based upon these instructions, I'm going to copy and paste these onto the slideshow. What I'd like you to do is have a go at the following. So you've got to find where it crosses the y-axis, where it crosses the x-axis, which we've done, and according to the vertex. And D and F are quite easy as well, but I'm not going to tell you how to do those exactly. The hints to do these are here. I'm going to put this right here.